We're back for episode 2. Throwing some riding footage in just so people don't get bored of all the photos. So I probably didn't recap on the last episode, but I shattered T12, which is kind of that square that's not there anymore, and dislocated L1 in the spine. And yeah, basically I'm in Brisbane now, and I'm being told that I'm never going to walk again. This footage here is from a club day in 2014, so it's not from before my accident. It's just some GoPro footage I had. So the rehab in Australia mainly focuses on getting you to live with your disability. They just don't have the resources to kind of help you out. So, yeah, I mean, at the start, like I couldn't use my right leg. It was basically just jelly. There was nothing. So after like a few weeks, they put you in this standing machine, which you'll see a photo of, because you lose bone density when you're not weight bearing. So that's why like a lot of paraplegics and quadriplegics and old people will break bones a lot, is just because your bones get weaker because they're not weight bearing. So things were slowly coming back. Like my left leg was waking up. It was still very weak, but like I pretty much had every muscle working, just a bit slow, a bit delayed, and the right, a lot of stuff wasn't working. So I think the first time I stood up, it'd been like 6 weeks since the accident. So for me, I'm 6 foot tall, so it's very weird to be seeing the world from that height again after you've been looking at everyone from 3.5, 4 foot in a wheelchair. But yeah, the first time I stood unassisted, I actually probably shouldn't have done it, but they had some rails in the hospital, and my physio was busy doing paperwork, so I kind of snuck over there and put the brakes on the wheelchair, and stood up, and then yelled out to her to come back. She's getting up me because I'm not supposed to be doing that stuff in the gym. There's the rails behind me, and that's the standing machine. So she was getting up me, but you could tell she was happy for me. So I think that photo is crutches. So that's how I left hospital, but I didn't leave hospital for another 4 months. So when I left, they couldn't actually get me a wheelchair. So it was kind of shit, but it was a blessing in disguise because it made me, sink or swim. You have to walk around on crutches, and you have to adapt. And yeah, it was good. Probably didn't feel that good at the time, falling over and shit like that, and every I could only walk 20 meters with crutches, and I'd literally, my legs would give out, so I'd fall. And so I wasn't by no means was I back to normal, but I mean, I'm pretty lucky considering you take it a bit for granted being able to walk until you can't. But as hard as it is for people to understand, you do adapt very quick. I'm on the ground again. What do you know? So you do adapt very quick. So eventually, especially for me, I was just walking, and a little kid when they're walking, they struggle to do it. So to some degrees, life was easier in the wheelchair. It was easier for me to get around at the start. It was easier for me to do things. It was faster. You could cross roads, things like that. There's a lot of challenges that you don't realise until you're in that situation, like crossing the road and not having ramps, just having a gutter, and something as simple as just rolling off a gutter. If you mistime that wrong and your front wheel hits that asphalt, you're gonna eat shit in the road, and you can't just stand up and get into just pick yourself up. You fall over, you got to crawl back into your wheelchair and climb up into your wheelchair. So yeah, there's some challenges that people will never understand, and I honestly hope people never have to understand them, because it's a shit thing to go through. And I'm very lucky that I only had to go through it for a short time, where some people have it for the rest of their life or their whole life. Yeah. So back to the story. Sorry, I went off on a bit of a tangent, but so leaving the hospital, I'm just walking on crutches, and we went to Project Walk in America, which is probably the best spinal rehabilitation place in the world. Well, it was at that time. They've got a lot of branches now. I think they've got a few in Australia. But it was 5 hours a day of intense physio and exercise, physically draining, but also mentally draining. Imagine the hardest you've ever had to concentrate. Now imagine doing that for 2 hours in the morning and then another 3 hours in the afternoon of just trying to get muscles to fire. So sometimes it'd be simple as doing something and looking at a quad muscle and trying to tense it, and trying to, because I could tense it fine on the left leg and on the right leg, and I could think about it, but it was like I'd forgotten how to do it. So you're trying to remember something that you don't remember learning in the first place, because you don't remember being able to control your muscles or do things. But so you're trying to remember things, and then I'd get phantom feelings where I'm like, oh yeah, I'm engaging that quad muscle, and nothing's engaging. So I was over there for 4 weeks. Kind of didn't see much progress, but Dad did train the trainer program, so he learned a bit about it, and then we come back to Australia to do more of it. Kept going from there. So the next few years passed, kind of thing. It was 2 full years before I got back to work. I was an apprentice diesel fitter at the time, so it's not the easiest job. So I went back there. So the main muscles that never come back even to this day is anterior tibialis. So it's the muscle that runs down your shin. So if you sit there right now and lift your toes and your foot up, you'll see that muscle in your shin bulging. That one doesn't work on my right leg, so I have to wear an AFO, they call it, which basically helps keep my foot level. Otherwise I kind of walk like if you had a flipper on your foot. You got to lift your foot up a bit higher. I got to do that because my foot hangs or flops around. And then I have heaps of weaknesses still, whether it's a bit of hips or quads, glutes. So basically my right leg, I don't know, it's maybe 60%, maybe 60% of what a normal leg should be. So I didn't start riding again until 2011. And then it was probably a few years I had no interest in Finke. I didn't start racing again until 2013. I just raced some motocross stuff in Cairns, and then it wasn't until 2015 that I got the Finke bug again, and you're about to see footage of how that trip went. So, counting the new cost of a bike, all the parts, all the accommodation, fuel, everything like that. By the time I drove into Alice, 3 weeks before Finke, it was $23,000. And I pre-ran 2 days, and this footage is 600 metres from camp on day 3. So, day 3 of pre-running, literally 600 metres from, I've just left camp. I thought I was cruising pretty good at the moment, and then I decided I'd start jumping through the whoops, and I've later learnt that you don't jump through the whoops because this happens. So that was a dislocated collarbone off the sternum, big concussion. So for the next 6 hours I was in La La Land, and I didn't think about Finke again until the start of this year, when I thought 10 years, might as well go back one last time, get a spike, and then here we are.